welcome back to a brand new episode of Beautiful and Bothered with me, your host, Johnny Ross. 'Tis Valentine's Day, and if you have someone to share the holiday with, I hope you have a lovely Valentine's Day. And if you don't, just remember, everything is made up and the points don't matter. So in today's episode, we are gonna do it a little differently. Again, we have no hot topics this week because we're gonna dive right on into our guest interview. The day this is coming out, I will have just gotten back from London, even though when I'm filming this, I am about to leave for London. So make sure to tune in next week because I'm gonna be talking all about my trip to London, everything about it. Obviously, this is in the past, so I do not know what I did, but I'm sure it's gonna be fun. So today's guest is someone I'm so excited about. It is ZEE Machine. He is an amazing pop star musician, unbelievable music. I'm so lucky to have had this conversation, and I knew from even following him on social media that we had very similar taste in music, and we're around the same age, so like we kind of grew up on the same stuff and went through the same, peak eras of music. The conversation was exactly what I hoped for. We got along like a house on fire and talked about music so much. I could talk about music for hours. It is my favorite thing to talk about. My life revolves around music. Even when it comes to makeup, when I'm so unmotivated and don't even want to film, my favorite thing to do is to create a mashup or my own kind of mix of a song that really inspires me, not only to get motivated, but also inspires the makeup look. That's 9 times out of 10 how I work. Singers and bands and music is my biggest inspiration when it comes to beauty. So to have one of my favorite performers on the podcast, I am just so excited. So without any further ado, we're gonna dive right on in to my special guest. Welcome back, everybody. To say that I'm obsessed with my guest today is a massive understatement. I discovered his music this past August, and his song Habit became my second most played song of the year on Spotify in just 4 months. First musical artist I've heard in a decade to restore my faith that the powerful, anthemic, arena-ready pop bangers will return to the mainstream. His music is sonically complex, vibrant, and innovative without sacrificing its vulnerability and message. An undisputed pop superstar whose impact has already begun with unbelievable success on the horizon. If you can't tell, I am so excited to talk to you today, the one and only ZEE Machine. How are you? I'm good, but I'm about to, whoever was the first song on your Spotify Wrapped, I'm about to kick their ass. So. It was Alanis Morissette. Okay, you know what? She can have it. Yeah. Well, hi, thank you. I feel like it's such a podcast trope to be like, wow, what an intro. Oh my God. Yeah. So I'm just going to be like, you could have done better. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I love wonderful. That, yes. Thank you. It's amazing to be here. Like I said, I discovered you this summer, and I was just speechless. Like when I tell you I was listening to you on a loop, because what I really just spoke to, I'm somebody that is so, my heart lies with the 2011 pop era of, yes. That to me was the greatest year of music. It was and I always joke around and say, I really feel like it was every single artist of that year's best work. You had Born This Way by Gaga, Femme Fatale by Britney, Cannibal. Thank you. Yes. Cannibal from Kesha, The Fall, even as, she's not really a vocalist, but even we'll say, what was J-Lo's, I don't know. The one on the Floor era. Yeah, Poppy and the whole 9 yards. It was just a pop heaven, and you genuinely are the first person, and we've gone the way, in my opinion, in the past couple of years. I think pop has gotten a little, I like to call it sleepy pop, where it's just very... It took a rest, it took a nap. Yeah, and you're the first person that has given me that feeling back of holy shit, where you feel it to your fingertips, that level of sonic just heaven. That's why I'm so in love with you and your music. Wow, thank you. Well, first of all, I will say the fact that you think that is the best era of pop means we are the same age. Yes. That was sort of the year where I was finally able to start going out to bars and stuff, so I very much imprinted on that era of pop as well. I think I have
two Born This Way tattoos on me. So to get that comparison is the highest of compliments. That is sort of the imperial era of pop.
Yeah.
For me. But I feel like, oh god, and I can't believe I'm giving my age away so quickly. But I have this. I don't think I came up with a theory, but it's like whatever era you turn 21 in is the era that you'll always be like, oh man, that was the best era of pop.
Yeah, because I'm trying to. I would have been. I'm 30, so I would have been
okay, close enough.
19, 20.
I guess whatever era you were sort of coming of age, like as an adult in. Yeah.
Oh, when I had just come out, when Born This Way came out, and I was like, oh my god, could we be gayer? You know?
That'll do it.
So Born This Way tattoo is my first one, and I just started my sleeve. I should have worn short sleeves, but it's
Gaga,
Gaga, Alanis Morissette, and Cher. So I call it gay Mount Rushmore.
Wow. Okay.
So
that might be the gayest appendage on your body right there.
100%. I'm gonna get so much more into that and your music and influences, etc. But I'm so interested in kind of going back to the beginning. So where did you grow up?
This is a long answer. Or not a straightforward answer. I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay.
But I've moved all over the place. For the first 25 years of my life, I lived in Milwaukee. I then moved to Madison. I then moved to Taipei, Taiwan. I moved back to Madison. I moved to Beijing for 9 years. I moved to Denver for a year in college. And I moved to Boston for college. Then I moved to New York, San Francisco, and now I'm here in LA.
Oh my god.
And so I've been very, not nomadic, but like I've never felt very rooted in one place. So when someone asks me where I'm from,
yeah,
I just kind of say pick one.
Yeah.
Because even though, you know, my roots are kind of in the Midwest, I've lived longer in Beijing than anywhere else, which is a story into itself. But I haven't been back there in 13 years. I would never say I'm from there. I've been in California for the last 8 years, but I would never call myself a native. So I don't know. I've never felt like I really had a quote unquote home to speak of, which sometimes makes me a little like feel a little transient. But also it's kind of cool. I don't think I'd change anything.
Yeah. Well, it's an amalgamation of all those places you've been to, like lived in. I can't imagine. So. Did you move that much when you were younger? Like, were you a military kid? What was all the?
That's the first question I think 99% of the time I get when I tell that story is people are like, "Are you a military kid?" And it's not quite that intense. My dad, he was I believe a Chinese history major, so he like lived back in China in like the late 80s. He speaks Mandarin fluently, so he got a job over in Beijing at a school out there, and so my family moved out there with him. We were supposed to stay out there for 2 years. I ended up staying there for 9. They were there for 2 more years because my sister was still in school. But I was there from elementary school till I graduated high school. For the majority of that time, I was at like an international English speaking school. But that's where I got into playing music. Because of that, the music teacher they had out there was really, really exceptional. And the music program wasn't like anything I've seen or heard of anywhere else in the world. And he really fostered my interests and abilities in a way that I don't think would have happened if I had just gone to an American high school.
Oh God, well, American high school music programs.
Anytime I see anything about like high school in the U.S., I get terrified, and I'm honestly so grateful that was never my experience.
It was pretty horrible. I sing, but I never played an instrument because I don't know. Every program I was in was just horrible in school. But before you entered that school with that curriculum, obviously was there an interest in music? Where did the musicality come from before that? What, like, musical household? Or
I don't necessarily know that it was genetic. Well, I don't know. My dad actually, he played guitar in a band back when he was in like middle school and high school, and here's the thing, my parents were always very encouraging with anything I wanted to do. I feel very lucky that I was born into the situation that I was, you know, very liberal, accepting family who really never told me that I couldn't be anything that I wanted to be.
Oh, that's awesome.
But my dad, I was always a good mimic for the longest time. I do think that there is an element of musicality that you sort of have to be born with.
Yeah.
Like obviously you can practice your craft and you can get better and better, but if you don't have that certain it factor that can't really be taught, something's just missing.
Yes.
And I don't like tooting my horn too much. I do think I was sort of born with a good ear. And so I spent a lot of time, I was able to kind of like mimic the like singers I heard. Like I remember when I was like 8 or 9, like there was this Broadway compilation CD that my family had, and I'm telling you, the original recording was part of that. And so I was just like basically trying to like sound like that.
Yes.
At like 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
Or like if my mom was like singing a song or something and it wasn't in the right key, I would be like 3 years old and I'd be like, "You're singing it wrong."
That's amazing.
And I recently just heard a recording of my mom has like a tape recording of me like singing something into a tape at like 3 or 4 years. And bitch, I am staying in key the whole time.
Yeah.
So there was always just kind of that, but I was always a little bit embarrassed and shy because I was like, who am I to dare to think I could do this? Like for real.
Yeah.
So my dad, he bought me, you know, like little instruments here and there. And like I had a guitar that I didn't really know how to play, but it wasn't until I got to this middle school and high school that I went to in Beijing where I was really offered the opportunity to actually stretch my legs in that sense and offer, you know, opportunities to play things and like work on music and performing. And that's also where I met members who would eventually be in bands that I was in. So that was a really formative time in my life in terms of getting into music.
And I know you play multiple instruments. Did you start young doing that? Was that throughout school?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I play guitar and I can work my way through bass and drums and a little bit of piano. I wouldn't call myself fluent on every one of those instruments.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I'll play bass on my recordings sometimes if there's a live bass on there. But my first instrument I ever tried playing was actually drums.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I thought that it was really fun, but I do think there was an element of me being timid there because the drummer, you know, is in the back. But there's a through line through a lot of watershed moments that I remember throughout my early development where what it was, no matter what instrument I ended up being put on, they always ended up making me sing as well.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I don't know if I've ever told this story, and it's not like a juicy tea or anything like that, but one of our music projects was that we had to write a song with like a social message or something like that, and we were put into groups and we had to like perform them. We had to write lyrics, we had to each play instruments. We had to put together an arrangement and everything. I was in the band, I was on drums. And the guys in my band who played like guitar or piano or whatever, they were kind of they were the funny, popular kids, weirdly. And I was the new guy. And so I was just like sitting there on drums and just kind of letting them do their thing. But then I had to sing.
Yeah.
And I had to sing their lyrics. And whatever it was we were doing, it was just ridiculous. And they went like a funny route. And I was really just kind of like not feeling that. So the day before the assignment, I was just like, I went home. I literally I rewrote everything, basically. I rewrote the lyrics to be like something that actually was like meaningful, I felt like.
Yeah.
And also we were vastly under rehearsed. They didn't really know what they were doing, and every time we played it, it was like a joke. And so we got there and I was just like, play these chords, just start out slow, just start out like easy, then come in, and I'll come in and I'll just read the lyrics off. And honestly, it ended up really fucking good.
Just hitting. Yeah.
I know. And I sang my own version of the song. Yeah. I redid it. They weren't mad. They weren't really taking it seriously. And I hadn't thought of that story in a long time, actually.
That's funny because I relate to that a lot. I was the same way. I was super wallflowery and quiet when I was younger because I just didn't want to be seen or whatever. And then as I got older and I started to realize like, okay, whatever, school's over, I can be whoever I want to be. I'm the exact same way. When I create something, I feel it and I taste the end result and I know how to get there. But so I'm very, controlling about how to get that end product done. But I want to ask based on what you said, because I think singing and playing instruments is one thing. It's its own masterpiece alone. But to me, songwriting is on a different level. And you are such a brilliant songwriter. When, obviously you're speaking to that experience back then, but when did that start for you? How did you really start to realize like, oh, okay, I can do this and I want to do this?
Well, first of all, thank you. The process is quite a mystery wrapped in an enigma. So I recorded a quote unquote album when I was like 12 or 13. And I would do that by taking a bunch of different tapes and tape recorders. And in on one tape, I would hit record and I go or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I'd put it in the player, I put headphones in, and then on another tape, I would hit play on that, and as the drums were playing in my ear, I would go like, or something, you know. This isn't note for note my you know, debut single. And then I would put those on 2 separate boom boxes, hit play at the same time, and on a third tape, I would hit record and I would like sing over it. So that was sort of, I would say, my first delve into production and engineering.
Yeah, the things we had to do back in the day. People don't understand.
But I had no sense of like, you know, melody structure or composition or, you know, lyrical cadence, or so to speak. And really that just kind of came with just doing it. It's very scary and vulnerable because a lot of the times you're taking yourself very seriously while also trying to have fun with it. And reminding yourself that you love it. I don't know. I was actually just saying this the other day where like I feel like my process, it can be very drawn out and convoluted. So there involves a lot of things that I don't know that I would actually recommend people do if you're asking for songwriting advice. So this is how I do it because I'm weird and isolating and I don't co-write a lot, honestly, because sometimes I will write like 8 bars and I'll stop because the really important part of my process is knowing when to take a break, because there's a lot of like writing sessions that I'll do here where it's like, we'll set aside 6 hours. We're going to finish the song start to finish like in one day. And my brain just doesn't really operate that way, and that unto itself is a talent, I think, to be able to crank out songs like that. And I did, you know, the writing camp session thing for my first year and a half in LA, and it was not where I wrote my best music. And really, it's taking my time is an important part of that process. Listening to music that like I guess this is a weird way to say it, but like listen to songs that you wish you had written. And like I learned from that, and I learned the ideas that make me feel good. And then also just wait until I get really fucking sad. And then the inspiration tends to flow a little more easily.
That's the thing about your stuff that I love so much in the lyrics. It does, to me, it has that Alanis Morissette, Gaga kind of creativity where it is about something that is very relatable, obviously, whatever, breakup, sadness, happy, fun, but it has turns of phrase, and it has such a poetic construction to it that is so lacking now, but and fun for you, especially when it comes to lyrics. You obviously are starting with that emotion. Does that almost like poetic construction of it come out first, or is it maybe a little bit more barbaric to begin, and then you're like, okay, let me linguistically maybe buff this up?
A little bit of all of those things. A lot of the time, my process, I will hear the song in my head, like finished.
Yeah.
Or I'll hear the start of the chorus, and I'm like, ooh, that's good. And so I'll take out, you know, my voice notes app, and I will literally just try to sing what I've heard in my head into my voice notes, like instrumentation and all, and just pray that I will be able to piece back what I was hearing earlier once I get home and I can start writing it. A lot of the times I'll be like, you know, at one of my day job or something like that, and I kind of have to like sneak away into like the back and like a lyric will come to me and I'll have to just jot it down or do a little memo. 90% of these memos I never even end up coming back to, which is really sad because I feel like I've got, you know, a discography's worth of ideas. A lot of the time I will focus on melody first. Maybe I'll have like a hook lyric idea that I'll sort of base it around. Let's take Habit, for example. It'll be like kind of like, or I'll just sing like lyrics that don't mean anything, and then I'll kind of form them like just another habit, my mistake, or something like that. And I'll kind of, and then I'll go back and rework them, and I'll be like, well, this sings really well. How can I work this sentence that didn't really mean anything? How can I mold it into something that'll fit what I'm trying to say? Because a lot of the time, this is like a Max Martin trick, I think, where he's like, for pop music, how it sounds is more important than what it's saying. So I kind of try to find a little bit of middle ground in there, because if like end up trying out a sentence that sounds nothing like that thing that sounded really good that I was singing before, it feels weird in my mouth, which, you know, sounds weird coming out of my mouth. But it's how I feel singing it is very important. And if the lyric feels wrong, it's going to be like a pebble in my shoe. And I can't I can't ever release something that I'm not like 99.9999999% okay with, because there are some elements you kind of just have to let go sometimes. Unless you're doing everything yourself, you're always going to end up finding stuff. Like there are things on recordings out right now that I'm like, oh, I wish I'd like tweak that a little bit. So
it almost sounds like you're like the way you're describing it, the minimal experience I've had dabbling in songwriting, it's almost like an element of having to split your brain in two when even though you're doing it at the same time when you're doing your music and your lyrics. And I think something that I used to struggle with, or I think people could, so if you're committing to the melody, you can't let that lack of lyric or the exact right word stop you from maybe this side continuing to go. You gotta maybe commit to a little bit of one side a little bit more, let the melody go, say gibberish, and you could add that figuring out when to kind of throw the ball over the net in a way and constantly balance that. I think people try to do it all at the same time. And if it's when they're, when they hit that pebble on one side or the other, it stops the other one from going forward, whether that,
Yeah, I mean, and everyone has a different process. And like for some people, they can just, like people who say like, oh yeah, I cranked my classic song out in 10 minutes. I'm like, all right, well that's never happened for me. Like the shortest amount of time it's taken me to like finish writing a song, maybe like on my own, maybe like 3 weeks. With breaks, not like nonstop. I was not like I was working on it every day. I take my time with it. I think that I heard Miss Cracker say this once. I'm sure, I don't know if but it's like when you're making art, you have to be okay with killing your babies.
100%.
Which is like sometimes like you gotta let go of the thing that you're like so in love with a little bit.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I've been like so stuck on one lyric or one melody, and like I'm like, this just isn't working. Why isn't it working? And then I try something completely different. I'm like, oh,
that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
Maybe it was your initial thought, and you're like sitting there in the creative process, ready to die on that hill for that one part, and then you realize the minute you extract it or take it out or do something different, you're like, oh my God, okay, that was the problem. Yeah.
And I tend to overcomplicate things a little bit because it's like, well, I don't want to be boring, but then I also don't still want it to be catchy. So I've spent so much time with like my earlier songs that I've ended up releasing being like, this has to be like the perfect blend of original but relatable but like unique, but also, cool, but also like fun. And it was trying to be everything everywhere all at once. And I feel like I found a good balance of that I was happy with, but looking back, I'm just like, that was exhausting.
Yeah.
And I feel like these days, I'm not saying my process has gotten faster. However, I'm just writing music that I want to listen to, even if it might, sound like something else. Like, like if anything, I feel like evoking a feeling that people may have heard a little bit of somewhere before can be the thing that draws them in. And then you put your own spin on it and then you take them out into space. So I'm not so hung up on trying to be like the most like oddball, unique. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I do have a recognizable sound, and I do think I do it well, and I do think it's distinguishably me.
Definitely.
Wow, look at me calling myself unoriginal.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I feel like I guess what I'm trying to say, I think I do a good job at making things sound fresh yet nostalgic. And a little bit, I don't want to say timeless.
Took the words out of my mouth. Yes.
I don't want to say timeless because that's talking myself up, but like I feel as though you could drop it into like any time and people would feel like, oh, this feels like home, or this style or this sound feels familiar.
Yes.
Yeah, at the same time it still sounds current. And that's something I'm trying to evoke.
Well, that's so funny. I even talking about your origin story. I mean, my God, you really like, yes, that's exact. I was going to put the word nostalgic in the introduction, but I didn't know, I didn't want to call you old or say your music was like
okay, I'll
only
call
that
old.
time. Yeah. Or that your music was kind of pigeonholed to an older time, because it still does have that newness and that innovative freshness to it. Sonic sounds from so many other decades in this blender that makes you say, like, okay, am I in the 2000s? Am I in the 90s? Am I in the 80s? Am I like in the 70s, 60s? And it's like you've almost been able to recapture that feeling from back then and reinvent it in a way that is very 2020. I also want to ask, because I think for a lot of people who are like music fanatics and love it, and I always describe it this way, and maybe it's also because I'm like gay and overdramatic, but I always describe the first like artist or album you listen to, especially when you were younger as a kid, as like literally just changing your DNA. And I remember I don't know what Christmas it was or what year, but we got Walkmans for the first time, and I always joke that my parents, they weren't big into music, so the only CDs we even had in the house it was like Bing Crosby and Dean Martin and the Andrews Sisters, which I love. But when I was 7, you know, my sisters were older and had music taste of their own at the time, and I didn't. So I remember, because I was 7, and I grabbed the only CD in the house in color, and it was Believe by Cher.
Of course.
That dark, deep, acidic, mysterious, the synths and her voice, obviously, what she was singing about. Run away to a place where nobody knows. Run away, gotta let these feelings go. I can still recall the feeling because it was so transformative, and it was the same. The first album I ever bought, quote unquote, on iTunes was Animal by Kesha, because it was like, she wasn't even big yet, and it was discounted for like $4.99, because I don't even think TikTok came out.
Downloading on iTunes was such a time capsule.
The first time I ever heard Take It Off on that album, where it just starts with that acidic synth just throbbing. Never really heard anything like that before that. It just changed me. And is there any artists or albums or songs that you kind of have that memory with?
Yes. I mean, there's so many. Because I feel like there have been eras of my music. And a lot of my taste throughout my life has not been like traditionally gay. Yeah. I mean, definitely queer undertones here and there, but like especially later on. Throughout like middle and high school, I was like a classic rock head. But like that first I think the first 2 albums I bought, I don't remember which came first. It was Thriller and then Millennium by the Backstreet Boys.
Oh, yes.
Those were right as I moved to Beijing. I had those 2. I remember wanting to like perform those. Like bow 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 down bow. I'm like, this is my concert right here. Or just like the vocal grit in something like Billie Jean or something like that kind of imprinted on me. Yeah. There. But then throughout like middle school, I remember the first time I heard Linkin Park.
Yes.
Changed my DNA. Crawling, like when he hits that chorus, I'm just like, what is he doing? Yeah. With his vocal cords in there. Crawling in my skin, these wounds, they will not heal. Fear is how I fall. Confusing all is real. And then I was huge into like Pink Floyd. Yes. And like all the guitar on that. There was a point where I was like, if your song is less than 8 minutes, I don't want it. Yeah. So I feel like the time, and obviously there were moments in there like Stripped by Christina, the Oops, I Did It Again album. Like I went through my there was pop sprinkled in there, but the majority of the music I listened to in high school was either classic rock or like virtuoso guitar shredders.
Yeah.
There's like a 3-year chunk in high school where I not only was I removed from what was going on in like the US in terms of pop culture and music because I was overseas, but also I just wasn't actively paying attention because all I was listening to was like, where can I download this album by Yes on LimeWire?
Oh my God.
Or like, I know, I found a store that has that King Crimson album. Like it was very, it was very oddball stuff for someone that age who would end up making the music that I'm making that I feel like people might not expect. But there were little, you know, signs here and there. Like when I first found Annie Lennox, that was a big thing. And then it was sort of around, I remember very specifically, I think the song that kind of got me back into pop. Well, too, it was Umbrella.
Okay.
And Love Today by Mika, if you are familiar.
My fiance loves,
Everybody's gonna love today, love today, love today. Everybody's gonna love today. Anywhere you want to, anywhere you got to, love me.
Oh my God, that album, it was like a pop clown show, I swear to God. But there was something just, it was so saccharinely like unabashedly pop. I feel like I maybe thought I was like too cool for it for a while, but it was like so insanely like corny and pop that it came back around to me loving it. And that kind of opened the floodgates for me again. And honestly, that song still, it has like a chokehold on my serotonin release.
Gen Z will never understand the
panicking
that you're going to give the family desktop a virus trying to download Avril Lavigne on LimeWire. Yeah, the pop rock girls. I still to this day listen to I'm With You by Avril Lavigne.
I was just listening to this album this week.
I try to wrap my head around the fact that no, not at all. That was a 17-year-old girl wrote that song with the emotions of a 90-year-old woman who survived like war-torn, like the level of emotion baffles me.
I don't know who you are, but
So exactly. I mean, I could talk about loving music and music influences forever, but you spoke to your high school curriculum, and then after that, you went to a music school, correct?
Yeah.
So where did you go, and what was that experience like?
For most of high school, I was like, I am a guitar player. I am going to be a guitar god. I am going to, like, that is my path. That is what I want, and that is who I am. And I'm just singing in this band because everyone else sucks at it, and I have to. But that is not really who I want to be. I auditioned for Berklee College of Music as a guitar player in my senior year in Beijing. I auditioned for several music programs around the U.S. for guitar, but Berklee was like that was my one, and I got into all of them except Berklee. I got into all of them with scholarships as a guitar player, except for Berklee. So I was a little crushed by that experience. I ended up going to the University of Denver for a year. They had a very good music program, actually. I will say the curriculum was good, but it wasn't really a fit because there's a lot of jazz, classical stuff, and that was just not my vibe. But that's also most music programs in any music school you go to. It's jazz or classical. So Berklee is very unique in the sense that they are any type of style that you want as long as you have talent, basically. But during my senior year, that was the year that it was the season of American Idol where it was David Archuleta versus David Cook. And for some reason, I remember, I think it was that one, Jason Castro sang Hallelujah. And I was like, I could do that. I feel like I could do that. I mean, my voice was very fresh. I mean, it was very green. Like I hadn't spent a lot of time taking it seriously. I had spent a lot of time just kind of mimicking whatever song I was covering. So the thing is with that guy, it was that he was like the first person I ever heard on Idol who wasn't like trying to, basically be some variation of like a big Celine type, a big belter, like bigger is better. Like, and he got like universal praise for this rendition. So I was like, oh, so there's a space for this kind of thing. There's a space for something that's a little more like artistic or maybe understated. Not to say that I'm like an understated type of artist, but it's just but like, I kind of felt, I sort of was like, look, I'm not going to be that type of singer that I think America wants. But seeing that, I was like, I could do. So I started watching the show and being like, okay, all right, let me try that, or like let me do that. And so that season of American Idol weirdly has played a big part in making me want to focus more on my voice.
Yeah.
And then the next season when Adam Lambert was on, don't even get me started. But
Yes.
so over the course of that year in Denver, I was also practicing at the piano in the practice rooms, like singing a whole lot, really kind of figuring out how to find my voice, access a bit more range and all that. And I realized, like, what if I auditioned for Berklee as a vocalist instead? So Berklee did they traveled around the country to hold auditions. In like the second semester at Denver, they came to do one in Denver. And so I signed up I reapplied and I re-auditioned and I sang Hallelujah for my audition. The funny thing is I was going to play a track and sing along with it. They didn't even have like an aux cord to plug into my iPod. And I'm just like, really? And
Cool.
That's very indicative of how prepared like these recording studios are, just FYI.
Yeah.
But so what I did was I literally had my headphone in and sang along with the track in my ear. So they just heard it a cappella.
A cappella.
And bitch, I got in. So
good for you.
So that was like my redemption arc right there.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. I mean, Jesus, what a story in that of itself. I mean, how many people get discouraged after the first time, but to go back and do that, I mean, that's incredible. I think that people don't realize that when anybody's in a position of, I mean, not everybody, but most people, when they're in a position that they really have achieved a certain level of success, like what it took to get there and how many failures behind it.
People don't like you know, we'll hear if it's meant to happen for you, it'll happen, or like all things like happen for a reason. And I that's not, I don't want to hear that shit.
Yeah.
But this is very much an
Yeah.
example of like this was how it was meant to go.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Like if I had gotten in as a guitar player, my life would have been very, very different.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the most part, I'm happy with the trajectory I ended up on. It feels correct.
One, how immediate was it that you post-college, or maybe even during college, venture out onto your own as a musician? Like, okay, I'm going to start this era. I'm going to start my career. And when you were heading into that, who were you looking to be? What did you picture yourself wanting to be back then?
So that's the thing. I don't know. Like it was a process, and it was a lot of like stumbling in the dark and false starts. And obviously, looking back, there's things I'm like, damn, I wish I had done that differently, or I wish I had avoided doing that. But you know, it is what it is, and all things happen for a reason.
I'll cut that out.
Yeah, exactly. So I had spent 3 years in college, like performing with a band at this gay club, and we just would perform like rock versions of these like top 40 songs. And so that's where I sort of learned to be a performer. But so by the time I finished school, I felt like I had become a very seasoned performer, but a very inexperienced artist. So, you know, I was halfway there. So it took me a while to like kind of figure out, like I tried writing songs. They were what they had to be. I was just trying anything. It wasn't, they weren't particularly catchy or well constructed. There's a lot of feeling around in the dark. But it took like 2 or 3 years after Berklee before I felt like I really started to write things that felt like, okay, this is a song, or like this is like, I mean, anything can be a song, but I'm like, this feels like correct.
Yeah.
That was around 2013, 2014. There was a big gap in my music development after that, just because like life got weird and hard. And I had to kind of, there were just things that I was like getting into that really took away from putting my time and energy into actually creating music. And I just wasn't in a place where I felt like I was able to do that until I got my life back on track.
Yeah.
It wasn't until like 2016, 2017 that I was finally able to like really hunker down and like focus. It's like, okay, what do I have to say?
Yeah.
What am I trying to sound like?
Yeah.
How am I going to record these?
Yeah.
And this was like the EP that eventually came out in 2018. So between graduating and putting out like the actual EP took like 6 years.
Yeah.
I'm so happy and proud of that, because like, you know, I went from life in shambles, you know, coming on this bitch mad as hell.
Yeah.
To like financing and promoting and recording and putting out this EP that that it ended. I mean, I feel like this isn't the flex that it was a few years ago, but it debuted in the top 25 on the pop iTunes charts, which is cool.
That is damn right. That's a flex.
For that day, you know.
Yeah.
The charts work very weird. It's like for that day, it was in the top 25. It was I think between Sam Smith and Pink.
Yeah.
And ABBA. if that says anything about how those work.
Yeah, I think the music industry is obviously a very difficult industry to be in, because there's a lot of pressures and expectations, and especially as a queer person, like, how do you navigate being in the music industry and being involved in this while still staying true to the integrity of your music, especially because are you with a label or
I am
yourself
baby,
finance?
It's all me. Just me,
that's even more commendable. Like, how has that experience been, like, navigating the industry, doing this alone, and keeping the integrity of what you want your music to be like?
Keeping the integrity? You don't. No. I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah,
while you're taking the sip.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. It comes and goes in waves. There's a lot of like trying things out and seeing how they feel. You'd be hard pressed to find an artist who comes out the gate, guns blazing, knowing exactly who they are from the get go. You try things out, you find out what feels right for you, what people respond to, and you kind of work out what feels correct. I've tried out so much shit that like even the stuff from my first EP, it felt like a very different person at that time, and that was me trying something that felt right for me at the time, and I don't think I would change it then, because I think it fit what the music was doing. But now I think I care. No, that's not true. I definitely care what people think, and anyone who tells you they don't is lying to you at least a little bit.
Totally.
Especially if they're a creative type.
Yes.
We don't want to care.
Yes.
But bitch, I do.
At a certain point, you have to, because people even ask me with what I do. There's always that balance of how filthy you want to feel playing the game. Like, it's always that balance of compromise.
God. Yeah.
It's that compromise of, okay, like, and when the project is done, if you manage to slit any percentage of what you wanted it to be, you're lucky. Like, that's the world we live in. So
hats off to people who stay 100% true to exactly what they want to do at all times. I'm okay playing the game however unfair it is a little bit, if it means maybe connecting with a few more people, because then they will also end up seeing the stuff that is genuinely what I want to do, and that is genuinely me.
Yeah.
And so I feel like you can do a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But I do know people who like will stick to their guns in a sense that's like almost, I feel like, detrimental.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying sell out, but it's more like learn the rules before you break them, or make your own, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm like this wild rebellious rule breaker, because my stuff is still very, I feel like, accessible pop. And so far it seems as though the people that matter are responding well to it.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy about that. Oh, and playing the game, and I'm sure, and I know you know this, fucking TikTok. Yeah.
I hate it. I'll look at the camera and say I hate TikTok.
This new algorithm change
oh my God,
is kicking my ass.
It's ridiculous.
Oh my God.
It's ridiculous, because there's no, and the thing that scares me about TikTok is it's developing, I mean, social media was bad enough with what it was doing to our attention spans and our interest in things, but TikTok on top of it there is no loyalty. You can have million plus followers but it doesn't matter, because every single video you post needs to be its own little viral thing. So then why am I growing on this app? If someone with 0 followers can have what I have with 1 million, then let's just take followers away. Then it's pointless.
The follower count does feel a little arbitrary.
Oh yeah.
It's weird. I don't know. I don't understand. And it's like right when you think you have it figured out and you know how to play the game, they switch it on you.
Totally. And the thing you were saying before that I think is interesting, like having that balance between being able to have, for argument's sake, 50% of the message you want, and then the other 50% is playing the game. I almost feel bad for the people that do blow up completely being 100% themselves, everything they want to say, all vulnerable, all raw, because when the critique comes, that has to gut you, because it's you. When you get critiques, when you're putting out art that is a little bit, has elements of being enhanced for the moment.
I
or
don't
the
like
time.
that either, by the way.
Yeah, of course. But it's a little easier as an artist to step back a little bit and go, okay, you didn't like that thing, but that was the thing, I was trying to do because of XYZ, whatever. But when it would just be, 100% raw, like your diary published in the New York Times, when that gets criticized, there's nothing to hide behind. It's just it's just you. Like, that's like very scary.
Thankfully I'm just a fake bitch all the time, so it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. But that's the thing too, even with me and what I do, is I think I have trouble even really relating to a lot of other quote unquote like influencers or people even in makeup nowadays, because I think they're so enamored by their follower count and that algorithm and their audience engagement, because and I don't want to sound like a bitch, but I think I think that's as far as they want to take it. Like that is it for them. Like just that, the follower count, the engagement, whatever. And I think you can relate to this in the sense that any exposure I get on social media doesn't mean that much to me, because it's a catalyst for something else that I want to do. I'm trying to get somewhere past this, do bigger things past that, and this is just a medium for me to tell you that I'm doing that. I don't know, it's a very tricky time we're living in where you can get discovered by it, but it really takes a toll on your sanity.
Absolutely. And you know, if I'm being totally honest, I care about it way more than I should. And it's something that I look at myself and I'm like, God, I am lame. Being so independent for so long and like hustling so hard for like crumbs. The moment I had a couple songs on TikTok really do some numbers and like blow my following up past what it was. I'm not saying I'm like a viral superstar, but you know, I went from like 600 monthly listeners to 70,000 monthly listeners because of TikTok. And getting that kind of validation when you were just so used to nothing for so long, it's intoxicating. And unfortunately, I now feel like I am a prisoner to this app that it's like gave me everything I have. And at times it feels like it'll just like take it right back away. And so I sort of like live with this constant fear of like, this could all, like if TikTok went away, no one would know or something like, or no one would care. And I hate that I feel that, and that I can't just be, you know, happy with the art I make within itself. And it's not that I'm not happy, and I love everything I'm doing, but you know, if this was the way I've been able to connect with like tens of thousands of people all of a sudden, like every month. And when something doesn't hit the way I want it to, I'm like, fuck, what did I do wrong?
I know.
You know? Like I just posted my most flop video ever. And it was something me being totally like genuine and honest, and I think very insightful. So I'm just kind of like, I don't know what y'all want from me anymore. It's like I have to go to the biggest extreme to get like the algorithm definitely is not giving what it used to give.
Well, it almost, the thing that drives me insane is it almost makes you, because exactly, everyone always says like, you know, TikTok is all about being relatable and being yourself, like, but then when you do post something like that and that doesn't even do well, you have an existential crisis, because you're like questioning your own vulnerability when you know you were in the moment, and that's the thing. And it's like, I'm so tired of not being able to have this conversation, especially as someone that does have a big following, without people thinking that you're being ungrateful. It's not about the players, it's about the game. We love the players, we hate the game. Because it's the TikTok puppeteering of it all that is.
Because the game keeps the players out.
Exactly. Because there's millions of people out there that would love to connect with us, but don't know we're here because we're not holding the camera at the right angle.
Or like I'll have people, like I'll do a live and they'll be like, oh my God, so nice to see you pop up on my For You page again. It's been so long. And I'm like, I've been posting every day.
Yeah. I know. Same.
So I don't know what's happening. But then you also can't. But when you talk about it on the app, it's like you gotta like tiptoe around. Cause it's like, God forbid, it's like we can't talk about whether shadow banning exists just in case it exists, and they do it to you.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my God.
So dumb. It's so dumb.
It's horrible. But, well, speaking of connecting with you and hearing you have a new single out. Tell us about it.
Yes. All right. Yeah. So it's called Thunder, and this is the song that. Did you watch, or were you aware of the American Song Contest by any chance?
Yes.
That show last year. So I was scouted to be on that show around the fall of 2021. I would have been the contestant from Wisconsin. Some casting agent reached out to me through Instagram. I said, sure, I guess. They ended up liking the song. I submitted this song.
Yeah.
They liked it. They wanted to do a Zoom interview with me. They liked me. They moved me on to the next round. I interviewed with all the producers. I then submitted like a performance video. They sent me the contract for the show. They sent me the contract for Atlantic, which would distribute the song.
Yeah.
And then they went with the other guy. So I was very bitter. So I ended up putting a different song out at the time. It was going to be this, but I ended up being very bitter about this song.
Yeah.
But
Everything
I feel
happens
like
for a reason.
Exactly, I guess. Maybe this is gonna be my biggest smash. Who knows?
Yeah.
I've loved this song from the get-go.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have put it out after sitting on it for almost 2 years if I didn't. One of the things that I really like about it is it feels like it fits in so well with these last few releases of mine. Like they feel like they're a family.
Yeah.
They're continuing this like sort of fresh but nostalgic vibe I'm going for. So sometimes when people ask me like what kind of music do you make, I'll be like, it sounds like music from the 80s, the 2080s. Actually, funny you should mention this. It's literally about being trapped by the algorithm and like running like a dancing monkey to try and entertain people, to try and get validation and get serotonin.
Oh my God.
And just trying to but never being like satisfied with anything.
Yeah.
And be like, I'll do anything to please you.
Yeah.
I'm very happy or excited to see how people respond to this one. Anytime I've performed it live, it's gone over really well. The saxophone moment on it was actually somebody that I met on TikTok who reached out and was just like, hey, if you ever want me to lay something down on a tune of yours, I'm down. I'm like, surely.
Yeah. Oh, I love a saxophone.
Say. So, same. Like, even if the song is bad, if there's a saxophone moment in there,
yeah,
it's my favorite song.
100%. Yeah, an Edge of Glory moment. Just that.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Full transparency. We are recording this before the single comes out. So now, for context, I know the illusion of editing. So I'm salivating to hear this song ever since you teased it on Instagram. But it is out right now. So everybody listening to this, watching this, go listen to this right now. Spotify, Apple Music.
Should be everywhere. And if it's not, then I'll pay for it to be there.
Anything else you got going on? Touring?
I mean, this will have passed then. I've got a show coming up next week here in LA at the Peppermint Club. It went great.
Yeah.
It won't matter by this time. I'm actually quite nervous about it just because
really?
It's very short notice, but the Peppermint Club is such a good venue here.
Yeah.
It's not like exclusive, but it's like the place that, like Silk Sonic will do like an album release party there.
Yeah.
Type of thing. I'm collaborating with a friend of mine in New York, and we will be putting out a song, I believe, in April together. I'm very excited for that.
Nice.
I'm going to be in New York next month to like do some shoot some promo stuff for that. I've started working on actually a cover with my producer that I feel like will fit very well with the vibe of the music I've been putting out lately. And like, I don't really do a lot of cover stuff, but I feel like this is something that people, I don't want to give too much away, but it's sort of very of that nostalgic kind of euphoric pop vibe you're thinking, but I'm definitely going to put my own spin on it. It's going to be serving vocals. It's going to be giving a key change.
Woo!
I have a few gigs coming up this summer for Pride season that I don't know if I'm announcing just yet.
Yeah.
But this is right now we're recording this at a time where things are starting to pick up again. After the holidays, things feel kind of snoozy. It was a rough end to 2022. And I feel like things are starting to look up, and I'm feeling cautiously optimistic.
I always feel like my odd years are better. Like so I have a feeling.
You know what? You are so right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't know why. When I look back on my life, 2011, 13, 15, they were all better years than the evens.
Wow. You are so, oh my God.
Yeah.
You really did.
Yeah, even years are so like kick my ass, and every odd is like something happens that's like big.
You know what? I'm gonna hang on to that.
This is it.
And think this is our year.
Yeah.
Come on, oddballs.
Yeah. Well, anything and everything for ZEE Machine, music, social media, everything is going to be down below. Please, dear God, check everything out. I love you so much. Like I said when we first DM'd one another, when you have your inevitable bad romance music video happening, I will do your or anyone's makeup for free. I'll sweep the floor.
Oh my goodness.
Because you're so incredible. I can't thank you enough.
Well, hopefully by the time I have that, I'll have the budget to actually compensate your talent.
Yeah.
So,
Well, don't worry. Yeah, I mean, that would be lovely. But if not, I'll sweep the floor for free. I could talk to you forever. Can't thank you enough for coming on here. This was amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This is absolute delight and a great way to start my day.
Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of Beautiful and Bothered. Stay tuned next week for a brand new episode. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, as well as subscribe to the Beautiful and Bothered YouTube channel for weekly video episodes every single Monday. And if you can, go ahead and give us a little 5-star review. As always, guys, I am so grateful you choose to spend this time with me each week. Wherever you are, I hope you are happy, safe, and healthy. If you don't have a Valentine, I'll be your Valentine. Because remember, you are beautiful. See you next week, guys.
You're on for cover.